How I raised my son was very little effort to get accepted to 3 Ivy League schools pretty much on his own. In 2021, he graduated and he had been accepted to Harvard, Yale, and West Point. And of course, he decided to go to West Point. He had his heart set on it. I was an officer in the U.S. Navy. That's how I lived 2 years in the Philippines, and that's how I eventually ended up retired here in Thailand at the age of 61. Had a birthday in June. My retirement started in April 30th, 2023. Anyhow, how did I raise my son to graduate from Ivy League school? Well, when he was a baby, I was reading a lot of parenting books. The number one advice that always was given was to keep them happy. Kids between the ages of, 0 and 8, 9, 10, they should just be happy. They shouldn't have to be worried about playing or working or learning. They shouldn't be worried about study. In Japan, kids aren't even given grades or given exams or tests until they're like in the 7th grade. It's a pretty old age for Japanese. They just learn for fun, and that's why during the early years, he was an only child, so, he stayed home quite a bit. We encouraged him to, play with the neighborhood kids. There weren't many, there were just a couple, and he did. He got along fine. We had a great neighborhood of a variety of aged children, just not a lot of little ones. And, so that's how he grew up when he was in his toddler and infant years. And his mom did a great job of keeping him happy too. When I went to work, for 10 hours every day as an engineer or an attorney. I was an engineer, electrical engineer with a master's degree designing microprocessors for most of my early career, and then I got a law degree later in my career, and that kind of helped me, think about life and law and legalities. And I'm sure it brushed off onto him when he was little. So his first school was Montessori. I learned about the Montessori program, and I liked it because it was individual, self-paced, do as you want, type of program. He entered, at age 3 or 4, the first 3 years, I guess they call it toddler or equivalent of kindergarten. And he continued Montessori through 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade. His teacher there was terrible. She was terrible for the 1st and 2nd grade. She didn't follow the Montessori program at all. I always like to go to the school, after hours just to see what the kids do and learn. His kindergarten teacher for 3 years, Mrs. Mellon, was awesome. She would send the parents pictures, of the kids doing tasks they like to do. And they learn at their self-paced at that age. If they want to do counting, they would do that all week if that's what they wanted. And if they wanted to learn the ABCs for the next couple of weeks, they could do that. And the teachers encourage it because they figure, basically, from what I understand, again, I'm not an expert on any of this. I'm not an educator. But, within the year, the children will generally, tire of one thing, like another thing, tire of one thing, like another thing. So the preschool teacher, she just managed the class to make sure, every child was kind of getting enough work on all the different areas they should, within the year. So if they spent a lot of time on math early on, and reading would come later, and then, geography would come in at some point. And his teacher's hobby was geography. So he learned, he knows today all the countries in Africa and Europe, pretty much the whole world. He just remembers that stuff. I don't know how he does it, but they learn a passion in Montessori because they do it when they like it, when they feel like it, right? So that was the attitude. And one thing I did early on was I taught him math at home for fun. Being an electrical engineer with a master's degree, I love math. So, we did, the basic addition, subtraction, multiplication tables early on when he was like 3 or 4, and then by the time he was 5, we were solving one algebraic equation for one unknown, and then quickly we moved into 2 algebraic equations for 2 unknowns. We'd solve those 2 equations simultaneously, and then we did a little 3 equations with 3 unknowns, and then on the factoring polynomials. And of course, we did all the division and fractions and pie charts and bar charts along the way. And, we even did exponent some, which is really advanced for a little guy. But if he doesn't know it's supposed to be hard, I always just assumed, if he thought it was fun with his dad in the evening, he was like play. It was like play. So he would solve two equations for two unknowns, and I'd say, wow, you just solved two equations for two unknowns. You found out what x equals and what y equals. He would run around the house screaming, yeah, I did it, Dad, I did it. I'm like, yeah, you did, man, you're good at this stuff. So we kept it fun all the time. It was not work. It was not a struggle. It really was not a chore, and that's the way I always approached it. So then he had Mrs. Seidel. She went to Michigan. Okay, I'm from Ohio. I should call it the state up north. The Buckeyes do not refer to Michigan as Michigan. It's just the school up north, the state up north. And when the Ohio State bus rolls toward Michigan, they fill up all the tanks and top them all off, because the Ohio State Buckeye football team, or I guess any sports team likely, will not go to Michigan and have to buy a penny's worth of gas. I guess Earl Bruce, is that the right guy? Started that. The guy that choked the guy late in the 70s. Earl Bruce. Woody Hayes, that's it. Woody Hayes. He started the tradition of not spending a penny in Michigan, so I can't say the M word, the state up north. Anyhow, she taught Ben for about a year and a half, and then she left. It was not working out for her at Montessori because she just was not following the system. But another lady, Mrs. Gamble, she was really good. She was totally with the Montessori and kids learning at their own pace and being guided and doing writing, lots and lots of writing, lots and lots of reading, doing the math, doing the geography, doing lots of history at different parts and times throughout the world, and she was excellent. But one time, and this is important because this is what Ben put in his college essay. One time, and he was always in the top 1% of everything on every placement test for the statewide testing that Montessori had to give. So he was doing his statewide testing, I think, as like a 5th grader, or maybe a 4th grader. And anyhow, he was doing the math problems, and I guess he was finishing up, walking up to hand in his test. And it occurred to him he did 3 problems incorrectly. So he's handing in his test, and he tells April Gamble, I'm sorry, but I think I did these 3 math problems wrong. I didn't realize it until after I closed the book and started walking up to hand it in. She said to him, well, Bennett, if you want to go back and change your work, I'll let you. And he told her, and he told me later that night, I told her, Dad, I don't think it's right for me to go back and change 3 answers. I closed my book, I'm walking up to hand it in, and it's just not right to all the other test takers, and he didn't. So he got top 1 percentile with 3 extra missed math questions, I guess. So I remembered that, and we put that. I suggested he put that in his college essays. And here's another important thing. I read a lot of books on how to, raise children, raise teenagers. Not a lot, maybe less than 10 books, but for me I picked good books. I went on Amazon and researched. One was The Overachievers, about following 4 overachieving students through high school, and they all worked hard, and 2 of them had Asian parents that grinded them. Yeah, they were overachievers, but they were kind of ground down, I never did that. If my son wanted to play a sport, he would try it. If he didn't like it, I'd let him quit. I'd encourage him to at least finish the semester or the league or whatever, and he played indoor soccer. He kind of liked it. He was a toddler. He was like 4 or 5. At that age, they just don't get, that's the big mob around the ball, right? So we figured he kind of enjoyed indoor soccer, so we'll take him on outdoor soccer, because hell, every parent in America is pushing their kid towards soccer these days. So the soccer fields were always really, really busy in our city, so we took him to play soccer. And he came home saying, I don't really like outdoor soccer. It's too hot, I don't like the sweat. I don't like the running. I don't think he liked the coaching much either. It's they push the kids way too hard when they're young. And I said, well, let's try to finish this up. So I went to watch, part of a game or whatever they do, if you can call it a game. And he's like playing goalie, and he's like laying down in the net. The coach is like, "Man, how can you stop the ball if you're laying down in the net?" It's like, he wasn't into it at all. So I said, "Okay, Ben, if you don't want to play soccer, fine. Just drop it." We never tried baseball or football. He just didn't feel like it. We did do tennis quite a bit. He liked tennis a lot. We had a semi-pro coach. She was a former pro. Her husband was a pro teaching coach. And she was like maybe 20th in the world at one time. Never in the top 16, but for a year or two, she was around the top 20 and beat. She played like Martina Navratilova era time frame. And she kept it fun for Ben, and they had a very structured group lessons and very, structured private individual lessons for him. They would drop a lot of balls and make him swing repeatedly over and over, but they kept it fun. They would talk about things, about life and school and this and that. So it was good for him. He enjoyed many years of tennis, and he was a 4-year tennis player at high school. That helps your college applications because they like to see you at least excel at an extracurricular or two in high school. He also did speech and debate for a year as a freshman. Did really well as were they contemporaneous speaking? Does that sound right? Anyhow, they one team lays down like an argument, the other team kind of rebuts the argument, sort of thing. I watched a few of those. But after the first year, I don't understand why. His high school is close to #1 in state every year, but he got along with teachers okay, I thought. The coaches of the speech and debate. But he didn't want to do it a second year, so I said, fine, you don't need to do it. But then he discovered band. His buddies were in band. He liked band. Oh, and also he played the violin from age 5 up through high school and up through his Ivy League school. He selected West Point. West Point actually has violin team or whatever, band, orchestra, I guess you'd call it. But they have a smaller group also at West Point. He played the violin there. So the violin was good for him. And Einstein, I know, and a lot of other good mathematicians always thought the violin helped them become better mathematicians. Not sure why, but can't really pinpoint exactly why being an engineer, but maybe it's the harmonics and the frequencies and the structure of the scales are kind of like fractions. I don't know. Anyhow, he loved the violin. So the violin and tennis is an actual official school sport. Violin and orchestra. His friends were all in the band, so he asked the band teacher, what instruments do you need somebody to play? And the band teacher told him baritone, which is it's a step down from the tuba. Most people want to play the trumpet or the tuba, but not something like a baritone. So Ben picked up the baritone and was in band 3 years with that. And he also played it in West Point University. In his first year there, I saw him on TV. West Point would score a touchdown on national TV, and they always zoom in on the band. And I got to see Ben tape him on TV a couple times with his baritone cheering for West Point. What else? So the one of the main things I wanted to say, and I wanted to make this structured, but this video has been on my mind a while. I think it's important to say, because some of the books I read, especially the Overachievers, that book, it had a picture of a girl on the cover with a violin, a big book bag, a bunch of other stuff she's carrying to school every day. It was just ridiculous. But anyhow, a lot of parents in California, I guess is what they wrote about, will pay coaches, like during the sophomore, junior, maybe senior years, how to coach high school seniors how to get into a top university. And I'm like, damn, I'm not doing that. My kid is either going to get in on his own or he's not getting in. But I'd read these books when, he was a toddler or, elementary grade. And one thing they concurred on, the coaches and everybody that coached these seniors or juniors how to get into good universities was, have a unique extracurricular, something weird like, saving sea turtles or something like that. And spend a summer doing it. Go to South America and put that in your college essays. That's what colleges want to see. They want to see unique individuals, not somebody that does what everyone else does and gets good grades and does a lot of sports and gets in a musical instrument. They like to see something extra unique. It's something that lets them know, you're not a crowd follower. So one thing I did was I never helped my son write a college essay. I did look at the final product once, and I caught that his West Point essay his Air Force essay said West Point all over it. I'm like, dude, check your essay. It's going to the U.S. Air Force Academy in Colorado, but you keep mentioning, the U.S. Army Military Academy at West Point, New York. You don't really want to call the university you're applying for by the wrong name. He's like, oops, sorry, Dad, I'll check that one. That's kind of the only help I gave him. Being an attorney and, learning how to write really well and think really well with, language, I didn't like his paragraph structure. I didn't like his sentence structure. I didn't like a lot of the words he picked. But, he's a 17-year-old kid, so, he hasn't lived as much as me. But I didn't change it. I did not change it. But I did suggest one major thing. I said, remember that time back in the 4th or 5th grade, you were going to hand in your test, and you told the teacher, you realized you did not do the 3 math problems correctly, and it's for, a state or national, placement test, not placement, but whatever, qualifying exam, whatever those things are called. I don't even know. So you told it to the teacher, and the teacher asked you, would you like to change your answer? And you said no. I said, you should write about that experience and let the college entrance examiners know that you did not change your answer. I said, how many people do you think in this world would not change your answer? I don't think too many, maybe none. I don't know. But I did always teach them to be honest. I said, life's too short to be anything but honest, You're going to meet bad people, you always do. Not everyone's not going to like you, but all you can do is do the right thing and live with yourself, because at the end of the day, life's short. When you're on your deathbed, you don't want to feel good about dying, but you do want to feel good about living as you go through life. And I want to tie this into Thailand. And that's why I'm here in Thailand watching sunsets like this every night now, because I'm retired, and I want to enjoy life, and I feel good on how I live my life. I don't feel bad about anything. Personally, I always tried to do the right thing, I work hard. Hopefully my pension will continue and the U.S. won't go bankrupt. Hopefully they'll just devalue the dollar, go off the gold standard completely, or just, move the monetary system to Bitcoin or stable coin, and then have all the dollar drop 30-40% in one day, and then our not mine, the USA's national debt can go from 40 billion where it is today, believe it or not, drop maybe in half or almost to that, back to 20 trillion. Hey, there you go. Now we can spend 20 trillion again, because we just devalued our currency because we went to stable coin standard or whatever. So anyhow, I feel good about living my life and how I did it, and I always encourage my son to do the same and to write about that type, well, not that type of thing, but the fact that he didn't change his answer on his, when given permission to by the teacher, he didn't feel it was right. And there was a time when Ben fell off of a bridge, and Mrs. Gamble didn't do anything or check on him to see how he was, even if he was okay. He fell about 7 feet. He said, Dad, my fingers and cartilage have been hurting for several months now, and I don't know if it's permanently damaged. I said, why are you telling me this now? He says, well, I thought you might be a little upset. I said, well, yeah, probably. But we decided to start writing some samples down of things where we thought there were 2 classes of citizens. If you were a son of a college professor from the College of Worcester, if you were a sibling or a son or daughter of one of those college professors, you got treated excellent in Montessori. And if you weren't, like my son, I'm not a college professor. I never was. Who knows? Probably never will be. Or the son of a truck driver. You got treated significantly different. I mean, it's not real obvious. April's a smart ass. She's good at hiding it. So we made a list of all those things. So Mrs. Mellon was the head of that Montessori program, and we made a checklist, my son and I, and, I didn't think it would do any good. We already planned him to start, public school in the 6th grade. And, but we went into the principal's office, and I did most of the talking, and I had Ben do some of the talking that he felt comfortable with. But we talked essentially to Mrs. Mellon, the principal of the whole program, and look, at first she didn't believe it. She's like, well, maybe Mrs. Mellon was tired that day. That's why she treated you like this. And we said, well, the next thing, she did this to Ben, it made him feel bad, and she's treating other people like this. And Mrs. Mellon's like brushing it off. Finally, we tell her about the bridge where my son fell, and she's like, well, maybe she'd make her hurt. And then we get to the next thing, and the next thing. So we're going down our checklist systematically, and finally, you can see her whole attitude change. It's like, yeah, I see what you guys are saying now. There's 2 standards of treatment for our students here. It does seem to be that if you're from a college family, you get treated better than if you're not from a college professor family. So we did that, and we let her know, it's the end of the year, we just wanted to let you know we're going to public school. And on the first day of public school, his best friend from Montessori, because Justin left the previous year, but Justin was waiting at the front door to greet Ben and bring him into the public school and show him around and guide him around. So that was a good friendship there, and they still are friends. I could say more about that later. That's from country club family. I'm not a country club guy, but we joined the social group and just used to eat there a while. But that's a little bit of a sad tale. But I'll tell it. I'm in Thailand. I don't give a crap. Here comes a rope down the road, and here he comes. Single cylinder diesel engine. So, sorry about the sidetrack. Those things just amaze me. Anyhow, it was kind of an interesting sunset here, but not the most spectacular one in the world. Anyhow, I wanted to see here out here because I like it out here. I'll show you the whole thing here in a minute, the pond. But yeah, so anyhow, Justin showed him around, and Ben's like, after the first week of school, he's like, yeah, Dad, there's a lot of cuss words. So that's another reason I had him go to Montessori, because I could afford it. And it was an easygoing program, even with, a slightly different caste system, if you're a college professor child or not. So it was good overall, but he's like, yeah, Dad, there's a lot of cuss words here I've never heard before. Because, again, I kind of shielded him, up to that point. But I know I had to let him get out in the real world, and he did. He went to public middle school, public high school. 7th grade was middle school at that point, or 6th grade was, so 6, 7, 8, and then 9, 10, 11 at the high school. So, yeah, anyhow, so that's all I did. That's all I did as a parent. There's probably some more things. Maybe I'll post an updated video or add on to this one that I don't think of. But that's about it. I kept him happy. I had him in, a program where he wasn't in a public school learning about bullying and cussing and cursing too early on until the 6th grade. He could focus on his work and enjoyment. Kept him happy. Nobody ever pushed him to study hard, ever, even in high school. I would sometimes suggest, dude, don't you want to study a little bit? He'd be like, yeah, Dad, and he'd study like half an hour, then go to school and get all A's. Yeah, he graduated the perfect A+ all the way across the board. He graduated valedictorian without me even pushing him, So, we did take Chinese lessons. I brought him to the College of Worcester once a week, and we had a Chinese tutor, actually a Chinese teacher at first from Beijing, a full-blown teacher. And then we had another guy that was licensed to go on the Beijing radio and broadcasting system to teach, to talk Mandarin throughout all of China. So he was a damn good Chinese Mandarin speaker. And he taught us a lot about Mandarin and China. And then a third teacher, but yeah, so he learned all the tones and had Chinese language skills under his belt. I mean, he wasn't fluent. We did travel a lot. We went to China, we went to Thailand 9, 10 times with him. Not all with him, but quite a few times. Went to Germany with him. Traveled a lot of the United States. We like to travel. I think everybody learns when you travel. It's just good for everybody. So he had a real sense of his place in the world. He was fascinated with space programs. So me and him talked a lot about space program, the meaning of life, how life evolved, the meaning of religion. Are you religious? I don't know about if he is or not today. I don't talk to him anymore because of the damn divorce, but that's another story. Anyhow, hope you guys, hope anybody found this useful, but at least I got it out of my system. So that's how I put in relatively minimal effort. My son got accepted to 3 Ivy League schools. Now, he didn't get accepted to Cornell. I liked Cornell. He didn't get accepted to MIT or the Air Force Academy, but he didn't care. He wanted to go to West Point Military Academy at West Point, New York. It's a beautiful campus right on, the Hudson River. So, founded in 1803 by Thomas Jefferson. Turns out there was a lodge owner that had a lodge and took care of the cadets early on in 1850. Guess what? His name was Benjamin Haven, the exact same name as my son. And at West Point, early in the early weeks of being drilled and screamed at and yelled at, they told the cadets about Benjamin Haven. And all the instructors and prior cadets knew Benjamin Haven was coming to join West Point. So everybody knew who he was because of the Benjamin Haven civilian back in the 1950s that took in the cadets, fed them, helped them cope with West Point Military University lifestyle back in those days, I guess. So yeah, there was a prior Benjamin Haven, and I found that too funny. That was too funny. But it all worked out. There's a Benjamin Haven Officers Club or something there, Tavern Officers Club. I mean, it's not the same one. It's completely different. There's an old picture of the old one, but it's like made out of wood. I'm sure it's fallen apart many, many, many years ago. Those are some of my rambling thoughts. But if you stuck through it, I think you would have found it interesting. So I'll stop here. I think a half hour is about as much as anybody can take on YouTube. That's about as much as I can take on YouTube sometimes. Have a good one, everybody. Hopefully I'll see you later. Share some more good thoughts. Bye-bye.